So the next talk is by Rushika Sethi and Jacqueline Connor. I don't know if they are there. Please. From Emory University, the Goizueta Business School from Atlanta. The Emory University Goizueta Business School has been working on innovative learning methodologies and the use of technology to support the learning environment. The pandemic just sped up the pace of this initiative, building global classrooms through 2021, bringing in holograms to give our students an opportunity to meet industry experts in a limited travel world, and creating virtual reality products for the newly established Goizueta Innovation Store. Emory Goizueta Business School is poised to take digital learning to the next level, creating online and hybrid learning opportunities without sacrificing one-to-one connection. That's really, again, very, very interesting, and we are looking forward to your talk to know more. So your slides presentation is, yeah?
Today. As mentioned, my name is Jackie Connor. I'm the Associate Dean of the Executive MBA program at the Goizueta Business School at Emory University. And I'm here along with my colleague, Rushika Sethi, and we're going to be talking to you today about digital learning innovations to enhance the experience of working professionals. And even though we come from a large university with a small business school and we have a variety of programs, today we're really focusing on the working professional population. So just to set some context, Emory University is housed in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States. We have approximately 2,000 students in the Goizueta Business School, and that includes undergraduate students as well as students in our MBA programs, our Masters of Science in Business Analytics programs, and our soon-to-come Masters in Analytics and Finance programs. So what we did was conducted research looking at our working professionals population and really determining what were some of the components they were looking for in a flexible learning environment. And this was actually pre-pandemic. So around 2018, 2019, we were exploring these opportunities. We were looking for expansion in our programs. And here's what we learned, especially looking at the executive MBA as well as the executive education populations. They wanted engagement from our faculty who could appreciate the experiences that they were bringing to the table in the conversations. But more importantly, more so than any other component, they were looking for flexibility, not only for work-life balance, but we now call it work-life learning balance. And so we were trying to identify what were ways that we could enhance our environmental educational projects and products, but also incorporate that into our learning. In addition to that, they were also looking for networking opportunities as well. To be consistent with what we were already providing, we already had a modular program which was hybrid in nature. And so we had students that would come to campus for about a week every other month for a particular program. We also had students who were coming to campus every other weekend for executive MBA programs. And then we also had executive education, which had a variety of in-person offerings, but we were growing into the online learning space. And so essentially, we had to work with our faculty to really transition them into the mindset of shifting from being a fully residential learning environment to now dabbling into new technologies and being more receptive of virtual learning. And we were definitely on that pathway and plan, but I will say, if you have to take advantage of a crisis, the pandemic helped fast forward those motivations and really push our faculty into being more open to teaching in a variety of ways. And so what we really did was look at how do we meet working professionals where they are? What are they looking for in these components of engaging with our faculty members, our culture at our institution, but then also being very flexible in nature. And so the technologies we focused on were what we call our global classroom, holograms, and then virtual learning and augmented reality projects. And so we were very fortunate to work with a foundation who provided funding for us to be able to really experiment in these variety of areas. And so the first project that we worked on was what we call our global classrooms. And you can see from the images, we have a variety of different classrooms. And so really what we were looking at was, how do we take our professors that are very ingrained in their traditional ways of thinking, but then now help shift them into an environment where they're more comfortable being in a virtual environment, but yet using some of their traditional tools. And with these global classrooms, as you can see, the instructor is able to stand and present in a more traditional way, but all the students are literally on the virtual wall. But in addition to seeing the students on the wall, they're also able to gain learning analytics and get understandings from how are these students behaving? How are they actually engaging? And so there are different tools, and it's actually interesting when the students learn about the tools that are incorporated behind the scenes, they're much more cognizant and aware of their behaviors. So for example, as you're seeing the images of the individuals on the wall, if someone's actually not paying attention and they're browsing, they're shopping, they're on Facebook doing something else other than learning, a big circle comes on their face on the wall. And so ironically, and what the student thinks is ironic, but the faculty member actually knows what they're doing, they immediately cold call that person. And so it's a way to get them back engaged, and it makes students understand, I may be virtual, but they're paying attention to my behaviors. I still have to maintain a high level of engagement. So we found a lot of benefits out of these particular classrooms. And really the goal was to break down geographical boundaries. So now we're not landlocked to the Atlanta region, the Southeast region of the United States, but now we really can open our doors literally across the world to all types of students. And our faculty really embraced these rooms and found it highly engaging. The other image that you're seeing at the bottom of the screen is actually one of our hybrid classrooms. And as we all know, over the last however many years, hybrid experiences have their challenges. And so this type of room actually adds an additional row of students to our physical classrooms. And so everyone that's on the back row is now a virtual student who can actually come into the learning experience. And so we've had a lot of great opportunities in that now we can have better hybrid learning experiences, not only for our executive MBA students, but also from a product standpoint when it comes to our executive education offerings. Now we can offer these classes to people in a residential format as well as an online format, all in real time. Okay. The next piece of software that we focused on was what we call holograms or holopresence technology. Thank you. And so this actually allowed us to bring in high-level speakers into our school. So as you can imagine, we want to have very engaging guest speakers. Oftentimes these individuals are hard to schedule. It's hard to coordinate them being physically on campus. And so what this technology allows us to do is literally beam in or beam out guest speakers and instructors for educational experiences. So this example here is a gentleman by the name of Rick Reeder. He's actually the managing director at BlackRock Financial Company, which is one of the largest financial organizations in the United States. As you can imagine, this man is very busy, very hard to schedule, very hard to get him to a specific region. And so by the use of this technology, we literally are in his home. He never had to leave Jupiter, Florida, and we were able to beam him into Atlanta, Georgia, so that our students could engage with him. And I have to tell you, it's really funny. Our students literally would say, "Are you sure he's not in the room? Can I go up there and touch him?" Because after a moment of time, it really becomes an immersive experience, and you really feel like the person is physically in front of you. The technology is really that strong. And so this is an opportunity for us to be able to engage high-level individuals, but then also cut costs. So another use case of this that we hope to experiment more with in the future is, instead of taking our faculty members and having them travel all over the world, meeting with alumni, prospective students, instead we can have our team members that run this technology travel. Multiple faculty members can stay at home base in Atlanta, Georgia, and then they can engage with alumni groups, other organizations through this technology. So lots of opportunities that we're looking forward to utilizing and growing here. And then lastly, before I transition over to Ruchika, she's going to talk a little bit more in depth about some of these innovations, is we came up with what we call the Gozweda Innovation Store. And literally, and really this is us embracing the culture of innovation, experimentation, and really saying, let's not be scared of trying new things. Let's see what we can actually, take some risks and see what happens. And this is what we did with what we're calling our Gozweda Innovation Store. So we were able to basically send out proposal opportunities to our community and say, who has a really interesting, innovative idea that you would like to try, that you aren't scared to introduce to your students, because we all know how faculty evaluations can be, and we're very protective of that information and feedback. But let's try something as a community and know that it's okay if we fail, it's okay if it doesn't work, but let's just go for it. And so what we did was we sent an RFP to our community saying, propose an idea. And we had a set group of faculty that were reviewing all the proposals that were sent in. They made recommendations, and out of that, we came up with 5 virtual reality projects that now our faculty will be using inside of their classrooms as well as outside of the classrooms, because we're hoping to open this up to other corporations and institutions, where literally you can take VR learning opportunities and provide engaging simulations for your students. So going back to what I initially said, meeting working professionals where they are, coming up with more flexibility, more different ways of learning. So I'm going to turn it over to Ruchika, and she's going to talk about in depth some of these opportunities that we have.
Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, so like Jackie mentioned, the initiative here was to pick up. Oh, I have to get out the way. So the initiative was really to pick up some key initiatives, and we had a lot of them. I mean, so what really made us happy is that our faculty members and our community was very excited. We had a lot of proposals, and they were all very interesting, but we just needed to see, what is the viability of these and how can we do them, and that took us some time, understanding and operationalizing it. Once we did that, we had 5 over a period of 1 year that we picked up. The one that I have here is the virtual negotiator, and this one's gone live. Over 200 students, maybe 250 students have attempted this, and we have like awesome review experiences on there. So in the virtual negotiator, what really happens is that we have our student or the audience or the participant, because corporations are very interested in this, negotiate a particular scenario with an avatar. So you could see Jackie here, who we had chosen as, our initial participant. So we know the real feedback on it. So we have Jackie negotiating with the avatar here. The faculty on this is Professor Michael Sachs, and there were really 2 objectives of this. One was certainly to do negotiation, teach negotiation in a very non-threatening way. So the student feels more comfortable. It's hard to discuss your salary. It's hard to discuss an internal discussion or something with your employee. And, if you have an avatar there, you are a little bit more in your skin and you feel like more comfortable doing it. So that was one. The other was, like Professor Sachs mentions here, how can we accelerate the speed and quality of behavioral research, which is, if it's a different gender or if it is a different ethnicity, a different sex, I mean, does that matter in the negotiation of our various, or how our behavior matters there? So this is a simulation which is largely accepted, and we are very excited about it. The other one here, which we have, is crisis leadership. The faculty here is General Ken Keane. Most of you might know him. And my colleague here, Stephanie, is really the person who led this simulation. So we're very proud of that. And what they do here is they have, and I'm going to, so you have a sudden external crisis and an internal crisis where, you have people role playing. So there are 5 or 6 roles which are played by people here. And the whole duration of the simulation is about 60 to 90 minutes. So the participant goes through the simulation, role plays their own role. And the way the roles are laid out is you would be the CFO, the CIO, the CTO, the CHRO. I mean, some C-level person in this whole thing. There is an external crisis. There is an internal crisis. The scenario here is a company which they're trying to take IPO, and how does that play out? So that is our crisis leadership simulation and how that works out. The goal here is to have it in the goggles and make it VR compatible. Okay. Delta Tech Ops. We are also proud of it. And we do have our Delta partner here with us as well for the simulation. And Grace, my colleague, is also here who helped with the simulation. This one is super interesting. You kind of get the 360-degree view of your Delta Tech Ops facility. Now, with the pandemic, what really happened here was the faculty was not able to take their students into the Delta facility and show them around, or talk about this whole facility and how the whole processes work, or what is the real life tech ops scenario there. So this idea came about. It was hugely successful. It was very well received, and now it is in the phase 2. So the committee decided that they should grant additional money to this initiative because it was going very well. This presentation is today, I think this is the same room at about 4:15. They would be showing you this experience in VR goggles on how they have developed it and what it really certainly looks like. So please be here to experience that. Coming down to 2 more experimental zone, as we call them, or our innovation store products. These are in the works, coming soon, fall of 2022. And one of them is difficult conversation. I am enjoying doing this. This is with the faculty, Jill Perry-Smith. She's amazing, and we have a great partner with whom we are doing this. It's more like a movie experience where you feel immersed in this situation. So there are about 5 scenarios, a conversation which is kind of hard, difficult to communicate, talk. How does your response elicit response from the other person? There are 3 ways or 3 parts, as you can see here on the presentation. So this one is voice activated, which means when I am in my goggles, I can speak. Or if I want, I can also select my response here. And that takes me to my next question. And then again, that's a thinking point. Now, how do I go from there? Again, there are 3 responses. Which way would you go? Because in any difficult conversation, your response, I think, is really, or your tone is really where that whole thing goes. So we're very excited about this. And believe it or not, we are still in the beta phase of it, and we do have registrations for this. So this is very interesting. The last one that we have here is a little different from the entire VR world. The thought here was to get into something different, into more of an expert behavior. Like we said, the way we are going now, the way the world is really going now, is to duplicate the expert experiences, and that is really AI. So this is an AI-driven simulation. The topic that we've taken here, the model that we have taken here is, when should an executive of an NGO decline funds to the organization? So it's on an ethics scenario. And the faculty is really working with the ethics expert here to figure out what should be the correct answers, feeding it there into the engine, and making sure, that with the help of AI, we are able to get the real response, or really to duplicate the real experience to a larger group of users, rather than just leave that experience with that one expert. So with that, I am at the end of my 5 Innovation Store products, and I'll open the floor for any questions. Oh, thank you.
Yes, there's one there. It is freezing here. Please.
Hi, thank you. That was really interesting, and I would love to, learn more and incorporate some of that. But I do have a question. If the goal is for MBA students to have this flexibility, be able to be at home anywhere, this global community, can they do those virtual reality exercises at home, or must they be on campus to have that equipment?
This is a good question. Yeah.
Yes. So as we're expanding and growing our programs, we're taking all of that into consideration. So with our executive MBA programs, the program's very high touch. So we ship a lot of equipment to them, especially for our fully online track of students. They get a very nice welcoming box and package of not only school hats, T-shirts, swags, but if they're in a class where they would need to use this technology, they would either get an actual Oculus, or they would be able to rent or lease an Oculus that we would need to return, or we'd find a way to have them leased locally. So all those things are definitely in the works, but we're very high touch with our executive MBA students since they are degree-bearing students. Having said that, for an executive education audience, I don't believe that we would definitely go that route, because those participants aren't as invested in the school. So that's something we would have to explore for them.
Hi. I would like to know if you are doing something to address more effective dimensions of the commitment, not only virtual reality, or that I saw that they were great, but how do you address the social engagement among students, the social dimension and effective dimension of not being on campus?
Yes, in just the virtual reality space, or in general with online education?
In general.
In general, yes. So we have lots of different components and ways in which we socialize and engage the students. To be quite honest, many of these individuals are already working in very diverse geographical companies and organizations. So they're already quite familiar with virtual engagement, not only in their organizations, but even in their specific roles. But what we do in particular at our program is we have a variety of components to engage students that are currently in the program, as well as our alums, to get them involved constantly. And even prior to the pandemic, we were already doing that virtually. So we have different activities, such as we call them alumni pop-ups, where alums actually come on virtually with the students, regardless where they are in the world, and we socialize and network there. Highly involved in other social media platforms, but we're very intentional in how we engage the students. So we always have planned programming where they really have to network in our programs.
Sorry, one more thing. Do you integrate social media platforms other than the campus ones and personal ones maybe?
We do. So we actually encourage the students to do that on their own for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it comes down to really liability because, as you know, these are students and they have their own ways of sometimes behaving and engaging. And so oftentimes we'll encourage cohort officers to build their own WhatsApp platforms, to build their own, or channels, I should say, to build their own Facebook groups. And then that way they have their own ways of engaging outside of the university where we're responsible for their engagement, but then they can also socialize on their own as well. But as I was saying, we're very intentional in how we encourage them to engage. Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, there are two.
Well, first I want to say congratulations. I mean, you really make a traditional classroom seem so antiquated.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering how many students, how many executive MBAs can you handle both, and do you limit it with the face-to-face versus the virtual?
Yes, so we are small by design, and that really is just the Goizueta Business School's culture. It's a very intimate learning environment because we like to have a high-touch experience with our students. Having said that, we also need to grow and expand, and so growth for us means probably an additional cohort of 60 people, not hundreds of students. So this fall, actually, we're bringing on our first fully online cohort of students. It'll probably be around 25 individuals, but we have capacity to grow that to 60 students. But currently, our incoming classes in the past have been around about 56 to 60 students. And so that gives us 120 students in an academic year each year. So we are definitely small by design.
Well, as two people who have been on the faculty for executive MBA programs across a number of universities, I'm just blown away. I think what you're doing is incredible. And I'd like to talk more over the next day or so. But as a specific question, I'd love to learn more about the simulations that you do regarding those conflict scenarios. That it sounds like you have, well, I don't know. And I'm not sure how many other people are interested. So if you could just give me like a 2-minute answer,
Sure.
I'll go for longer when we're just one-to-one.
Sure.
Please. Anything specific that you would want
Yes.
to talk
So
about? Yes.
who designs what the conflicts are about? Who customizes them? How are they different? If, for example, it's for the executive MBAs versus the other students, how do you get the core of what they're about? And then
Right.
do you have actors who do them, or it's just a big package you buy?
And your first question was the most relevant. How did you get them, or who designed them? And that we thought. And we were very careful. And I don't want to say we, because really that was something that the faculty, Jill Perry-Smith, she probably got deeper into it and thought about it. And these scenarios, and they are written and told by former students. So these are all
that's
very,
great.
very real life scenarios which were picked up. And I think that was a fundamental reason that Jackie would confirm that, this simulation was selected as one of our innovation story simulations. So these are real scenarios. We have executive students who have gone through these experiences, have faced these difficult situations. In a traditional environment, they were being discussed in a classroom where you do a one-on-one discussion. What's the downside of that? The downside of that is your learning is not personal. You may not talk of everything in an open classroom. And even if you do, it might be just, Ruchika talking to the faculty and everybody else being an audience to it, where I might not even give the right response, right? So it kind of does not go as far as we thought. I believe that this scenario as a simulation in a VR scenario is probably more effective than in a classroom scenario, because you're less threatened. They are real. They have been told by former students, and that's how they got selected. And then we laid them out. The challenge. The biggest challenge in developing these simulations is never the right answer. It's always the distractor. It's always right what you should not say. And that's what takes us very long in thinking through this. To eliminate that, what we have done is we do something called as table reads, where we bring in some students who we really call our subject matter experts. And these are the people who would have suggested these or have gone through this, or we have seen that they have the personality to look into these. We bring them in. They are our student matter experts, and they do the table read of these simulations.
So they're actually, that person is a former student.
This person is an actor.
Okay, I got it. So they're actors, and the students are feeding them the sort of customized scenarios that they're acting out. Got it.
And that person is your student, up wearing the goggles. On the top, wearing the goggles is your student. And this person is a real actor in a real life situation, talking to you about the simulation. And you also have those answers written here, because, sometimes the person might say it, but you need a moment to think about it. So you have them, and you can either select or you can say.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think there's another question. Yes.
Thank you. You started talking about this briefly. If you could explain how your team is organized, how many people work to develop these simulations or scenarios, and the timeline. How long does it take you to bring this to life from idea to full scenario that students can practice?
That's really interesting. The first one took us a very long time. Just setting the team together, understanding it, the needs, that iteration went on for multiple months. I would say we had a lot of experience in our team. Having done a lot of virtual reality in the past helped us. So that was good. And we had our scenarios, which we were quite, they were quite defined, and we knew we are doing these scenarios. So those were the things which eliminated a lot of time wastages. Once we were done with the first scenario, we think we'll be a little faster. But if you are planning on it, having a great partner and having the process set up is key. And from there, you should probably give yourself between 6 months to a year.
And how big is your team that works on this? Just in numbers, how many people are involved?
It changes. It varies. I mean, it varies because every simulation has a different actor, the way that changes. So there'll be a scenario where you just need, it's a one-on-one conversation. It's a much shorter scenario. It goes much quicker. Things happen faster. So you can't define the team size. I mean, you would have specific roles. There'll always be a manager. There'll always be a production expert. I mean, you need a whole team to film it. So it is really movie making.
Okay. Thank you. I think we can end this session and this very intense morning. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you.